Hello, and thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the She Means Business podcast, where we bring together badass women business owners, industry leaders, and other aspiring women to celebrate their success and empower you. I am your host, Ashley Mastowski. I'm a business owner, wife, and mom of twin toddlers. Ambitious is my middle name. Join our email list and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find inspiring content, updates, and the chance to connect with like-minded individuals. Remember to leave a review and share how we've inspired you. Now, let's get to business. Welcome back to the She Means Business podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Mastowski. I am so excited to learn the story of our next guest. She is not scared to take risks and chances. What do they always say? What's that saying? High risk, high reward? She seems to fit that bill. So let's dive right in. Please welcome Jackie. She's a mortgage loan officer with Geneva Financial. Welcome, Jackie.
Hi, Ashley.
I'm so glad you reached out and that you were, listened to the podcast and heard another guest. So, you had mentioned it's kind of out of your comfort zone. And I think from what I've learned in my life is we make the most growth when we're uncomfortable, right?
That is the story of my life. Pretty
much. So I'm like, I always have more respect for those people that kind of push that boundary of the uncomfortableness. Is that a word? We can make that a word, right? Uncomfortableness.
The word of 2024.
So true. Lots of changes happening in 2024 for sure. Well, I would love, I know just a little bit about your story, but I would love to hear it from you. So tell us your story. How did you could go back as far as you want. How did you land in Vegas? How did you end up in your career? So take it away.
Awesome. So my story, we will start from the beginning. So I was 6 months old when my parents decided to come to the United States. So I'm first generation here. We landed in Chicago, so lived in Chicago pretty much my whole life. And then on a whim, when I was 25, me and my now husband said, let's move. Let's leave Chicago. And I said, okay, where do you want to go? And he's like, where do you want to go? I'm like, let's go to Miami. He said Vegas. So I said, okay.
So you literally let's just make a drawing and figure it out without a plan? Just a new start?
No plan at all.
What?
We literally, I had a Honda Civic at the time, and we filled up the Honda Civic with whatever could fit. And we were thinking, oh, it's Vegas. It's going to be warm. So no winter clothes.
Right.
Bad idea. And we just drove cross country. We had no place to stay in Vegas. We knew nobody in Vegas. We had no job. We literally just drove.
Wow. I don't consider myself a risk taker, but everybody tells me, and obviously when you open your own business, you're for sure a risk taker. I don't know if I'd go as far as your level. That is awesome. That is really impressive. So Vegas essentially drew the short straw, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get to Vegas, and clearly it was a good decision because you're still with the boyfriend at the time that you moved out here with. So that's a good sign. So when you got here, I'm going to assume you worked somewhere in the hospitality casino range.
I did. I had a college degree. I went to DePaul in Chicago, double majored. I'm like, I'm going to come to Vegas and I'm going to find a job. This was back in 1997, I want to say. So it was still really small in Vegas. And my last job in Chicago, I was a licensed customs broker. So I've done a lot of different types of work. And so we actually cleared shipments through customs, which I love doing. Well, once I got to Las Vegas, I'm like, that work doesn't exist here because everything gets cleared in Los Angeles. And I'm like, what am I going to do for a job? So I said, I'm going to start from the beginning and got a job for $8 an hour at the Players Club booth at the Monte Carlo on a graveyard shift.
Oh my gosh. So not only making that money, working graveyard on top of it.
Oh my gosh. But I would see so many strange things, but it was entertaining. And the graveyard shift.
That is true. Welcome to Vegas, working graveyard at a casino.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take whatever I can get and work my way up. So I did that for a little bit, and then there was a casino host, a woman that I befriended, and she's like, you know what? Let me see if I can try to get you a position in marketing, since that was kind of what your degree was in.
Mm-hmm.
And so ended up going into special events, worked my way up to casino marketing, and eventually my last position was a VP of marketing with MGM
Awesome.
Resorts. I was at the Mirage as the VP of marketing before I decided to transition into a different career.
Wow. That's a pretty nice gig. So then how do you go from marketing to mortgages and financial world? That's kind of an interesting shift.
I'm always throwing a wrench into, the situation here.
You're like, I had no plan.
Exactly. I was like, what the heck? Let's take a risk.
I'm learning your I'm absolutely learning your patterns right now.
Yeah. So I've always loved real estate. And the funny story is, before we moved out to Las Vegas, I ended up taking a real estate class in Chicago. And I was like, I'm going to do real estate. Well, I took that class, but never took my test. And it was, 25 years that I'd never done anything with real estate. And when I was in the casino world, I'm like, I've really done everything I've wanted to do in the hospitality world. I'm like, I'm going to go follow that dream and do real estate. And my husband's like, are you crazy? And I said, yes. So I ended up taking a class, took my real estate license exam, and I was like, I love commercial real estate, so I'm going to try to get a job in there. And my husband's like, how? Like, we've got kids. We need paycheck. We need to live. And I said, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So,
that's the last words, right? I'm sure the husbands love hearing that. Oh, we'll just figure it out.
Exactly. Needless to say, he's the calm one. I'm the one that's, like, okay, let's do this. So
you and me are very similar. My husband is completely calm and even keel. And I sometimes wonder, like, what? I don't know. Like,
we're the movers and shakers.
Yes. But high risk, high reward, right?
Totally.
But on that note, though, I have to give credit for whomever the spouses are. Obviously, our podcast is a little bit more geared towards women, but how did you navigate your relationship? Obviously, were there stressful times? Were there is he just always, I support you 100%? Do you how? That's a lot, to make that shift, especially when you have kids. And I don't know how young they were during this process. So can you maybe touch on your relationship a little bit and how you guys navigated that when you were making these? Obviously, moving to Vegas is probably a little bit different because you were married, you're still young. That's a little bit easier to do. But when you decided to make the shift with a family, with a pretty good career, in marketing, can you talk maybe about that a little bit?
For sure. I feel like I'm very entrepreneurial. And the funny story is, I feel like if my parents could come to the States, not knowing the language, having $100 in their pocket and a 6-month-old baby, and they've done well, I'm like, what's holding me back? I was like, what's holding us back? So I'm very accustomed to risk and figuring it out and making it work. Where my husband, and I got to give him credit, I admire him being very even keel, and he's happy. And I feel like entrepreneurs are always like, can I do more? What more can I do? So he's been very supportive. That doesn't mean that he's not concerned, and of course it's normal to be human and be afraid. But I'm like the bull in the china shop, maybe because I'm a Taurus, and I'm just like, you know what? Let's go. We're going to figure this out. If you put in the effort, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yes, for sure. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah. I always tell people, I'm like, you have to have that support. And if not, you're just I think you and me would be the type that will figure it out and it'll work out because we're hardworking and we figure it out. But you still have to have that back end support. You still have to, I didn't have kids when I opened my own brokerage, but I knew we were going to have kids. So I was like, and I wanted to have them fast. So I'm like, if the quicker I get this up and running, the more support I know I'm going to have for my husband and not have to. I sometimes am like, I feel like I have to sell my husband on this idea. And I shouldn't have to, but that's my mentality. My poor husband, our husbands, right?
Exactly. But look at the reward they get.
See, thank you. Thank you. I'm making sure he listens to this episode.
There you go.
You're welcome,
yes.
Husbands. You're welcome. But in all honesty, I mean, it is I know, right? It is really good, to have that support. And that's, you have to work through that. I owned a business prior to this and there wasn't much money in it. And I will tell you, there was definitely some hard times. I was doing what I absolutely loved doing. But it's just, it was a labor intensive business. There was a lot of issues, but he stood by me. But I will say he doesn't let me forget those years where he floated us for at least a few years. So he doesn't let me forget that. But I'm like, at what point are you going to stop bringing that up? Probably never.
It just keeps us honest, I guess. And,
That's exactly right. And it shows that they aren't just pushovers, that they're going to stick their, they're going to put their foot down when they need to and just gentle reminder, hey, remember what I did during those years that you were building this dream of yours.
Exactly. And that's a great point because being reciprocal on that end, I think is really important in the relationship. My husband had a dream, before the crash of 2008, to open up his own wine store. And we had a great little wine shop. Aliante, things were going great. Like I was supporting him in that vision. And then, the economy fell apart. So we had to close that. But it's kind of like I supported him then in his dream. Yep. And so it's a reciprocal. Awesome. Okay, let's support you in your dream.
Yep. That's so awesome. So let's get into, you make the shift. You leave a VP of a corporate job. Not many people would want to do that for that comfort. And how did you end up here? Like what was that journey like?
So I did, once I got my real estate license, I did commercial real estate for a while. And I really enjoyed it, learned a lot. Like I love real estate. I love the finance part of it. And that's when I was like, what I really enjoy is the finance part of real estate because without the financing, real estate dreams don't come true. So exactly. It's like,
I still like to go. This is where you and me have been very similar. And now I'm like, no, I just like to look at the pretty houses and want to buy the pretty houses. Somehow the money will show up. I don't like the money part. Just let me get into this pretty house.
Exactly. And that's what I found is that a lot of people are afraid of the money part. And they've got these beliefs like, oh, I can't afford it. Oh, my finances. And so it was right before COVID, but I didn't know COVID was coming. Right. So I said, I said to myself, I'm like, you know what? I've had a good run in commercial real estate. I really want to do the financing and mortgages. So I signed up to get my mortgage license, and then COVID hit and the world closed.
Yep.
And once again, my husband's like, what are you doing?
We have to give him a big shout out.
Yeah, we do. We really do. So I studied for my mortgage license, but with the world being closed, I couldn't take my test.
Oh, forgot. I didn't even think about that. People getting into insurance. It was like backed up. I want to say like 6 months they were still letting you take the test, but it was so backed up because everybody wanted to become a realtor. Everybody wanted to become an insurance agent. now clearly mortgage, agents too. So the testing centers were backed up for months.
Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And so finally I kept checking, where can I take my test? Like, I will fly to Reno, I will go wherever. And luckily, a spot opened. I took my test and I started working in mortgages. And it was during the COVID days, which is when interest rates were in those, twos and threes that will never come back. And so started working.
And if they do, we're going to be on the end of our lives.
Oh my gosh, it'll be the end of the world.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think the banks learn their lesson real fast.
Big time. Yeah. So started doing mortgages in the COVID days, helping folks, and fast forward and I'm still doing mortgages and loving it because it's that finance. Like, I love problem solving.
Sure.
And, going ahead and trying to solve people's problems is something that I really enjoy doing. And people are like, you're crazy. Why do you love problems? But to me, it's a way to unravel the unknown. And so when people have fear, the opposite of fear is knowledge. And that's where I like to come in and help folks realize that let's see what the facts are and then make a decision. So here we are.
I love that. The opposite of fear is knowledge. That's awesome. That's a good one. We definitely have seen a shift in the market, right? Inflation is massive right now. I'm just even the insurance market. When you see the insurance market go nuts, now you really know things are really bad. And every industry has their hiccups, but I think what we have to get through, and I'm speaking from, we're all kind of in the same bubble, right? You do mortgages, I do the home insurance on them. I absolutely have a passion for real estate, not for mortgages, but for real estate, which requires the mortgage. But so I'm always involved and I'm always looking and seeing what's out there. And I want to build and am in the process of building my real estate portfolio because I love investing on that route. So kind of to piggyback off of when people, let's chat about, I want to get back into how you've grown your business and how you're surviving, but I also want to chat about, this is the new quote unquote norm. We do have interest rates that should be dropping this year. And, how much, I don't know, but I know you can touch on this, but I loved, when we were chatting before the podcast, you really did hit the nail on the head. We have this fear in our head, like we're doing the math ourselves. We're not reaching out to a professional. We're thinking in our head, like, well, there's no way I can come up with this 5% down. There's no way I can afford this mortgage payment with the 7% interest rate doing bankrate.com, or Zillow.com's mortgage calculator. So, then we just kind of steer away from it. So what is kind of like your experience and how do you want to help, these people really, say like, hey, you can, this is kind of the new normal. So let's figure it out with today's financials.
So the internet is the most amazing tool ever. But
know where you're going with this one.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Google.
My husband hates it when I pull out my Dr. Google degree.
Yep. I think we all have it.
Yeah. So it's really much the same situation. So a lot of times folks will have this idea of I can do it or I can't do it. And a lot of times as humans, we're predispositioned to think that let's be safe. We can't do this, but I still want to do something. That's where, you really need to talk to a professional about, okay, let me put all my cards on the table. I'm going to get financially naked with you, like not literally, but financially.
Yep. I like that. Yeah.
And this is where you need to have a professional really take a look at all of the finances, the opportunities that are out there, how people can get mortgage ready, even if they're not ready right now. But if you have somebody on your side, a human who can actually converse with you and give you strategies, it's a lot less scary to go out and make those real estate dreams come true versus just going online to a calculator, dropping in some numbers, and it spits back a number. You can't really make a decision off of that because there's no strategy behind it. Whereas if you talk to a professional, as a mortgage lender, we have the strategies to give buyers to make them homeowners. And it's a lot easier than people think because there's so many different programs.
Well, I was just going to say, though, I mean, aren't there quite a bit of programs out there to help first-time buyers, teachers, veterans? Like there's all these, what if there's a program out there that they don't know? You don't know what you don't know. So again, I'm such a big believer in it's taken me a while because I'm a control freak, right? And I need to and have everything. But over the past, I would say really the last 2 years, quite honestly, but over the past few years, especially after opening my brokerage, I've really come to the realization and understanding that it is important to hire a professional for whatever field. I'm not going to go to LegalZoom. I am going to hire a lawyer who I can actually converse with and talk things through because every situation is different. I can't just, there's always weird caveats. Nothing's ever easy in my book, at least. So I can't just go to LegalZoom and create this easy trust to do because I have all these other moving parts. So going to a professional such as you versus going to, any online account, just like my arch nemesis, Geico, sorry, is like Google too. But Geico is like, they don't know what they're trying to protect. All they're focused on is saving you 15% in 15 minutes, which does nothing. They're giving you all now you're focused on is the price and you were extremely underinsured and have no idea. And now you served a lawsuit and losing your wages because you didn't have enough coverage. So I'm sure the same, falls with you and you don't know what you don't know. That's kind of what I've learned is talk to a professional. And I love your comment about strategize. We might not, the problem is though, people want things here and now. So you might not be which I'm guilty of. I don't want to hear a strategy that takes 6 months. How do I do this tomorrow? Impatient is my middle name.
Yes, you can definitely start online because that's, where people's interest is piqued and, you can go online.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it. Exactly. But take that information and validate it with a professional. And I love the point of you saying like speak to somebody. Like, I think that's the lost art of speaking to people. Because there's questions that, I can ask about their goals for real estate. A lot of people think, my credit score is awful. I have all this credit card debt. Let me pay it off first because that's going to stop me from getting a mortgage. Where technically that could ruin your chances of getting a mortgage. Like you don't have to pay off all your credit card debt. Medical bills. People are like, I've got so many medical bills. Let me pay them off first. If you don't talk to a professional and you pay off your medical bills, sometimes you're losing money because depending on your loan program, medical bills don't come into the equation.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, really talking to a professional and let's figure it out. And, being honest and truthful with individuals is really the best way to do it because you can tell them, okay, now is not the right time for you to do this, this, and this, or now is the right time because of this, this, and this. So instead of trying to self-diagnose your financial situation on can you afford a mortgage, I'll let the professionals do it.
Yep, for sure. And I think it's becoming more prominent with all the coaches, all the life coaches, the real estate coaches. Everybody's a coach now, and I'm not knocking that by any means. But I think because people see that need, right? And so I think they're now gravitating and understanding the value that us professionals bring. It's it's a vulnerability thing, right? I'm getting financially naked with my lender, and it can be embarrassing. Like, how did I get here? Why is my, I'm being judged because my credit score is here, and nobody wants to feel that. So I think we're also, you and me are very similar and very parallel in industries, is we're in a people business. So it's important that we, have people that our clients or people coming to us because they relate to us or they like us and they feel comfortable with us, right? So, kind of with that shift, how do you bring in at your, office now at the firm that you're at? How do you go about and bring in business? How do you find these people that are willing to be vulnerable, that are, how do you look for them? How do you find them?
The point about being vulnerable is definitely the word of 2023 for me. Because being vulnerable is, from the client perspective, they have to be vulnerable and trust us. But then from the professional side, we have to be vulnerable to show them that we are professionals. So being able to do that, a lot through social media, Instagram videos, really showing me as an individual, like, here's who I am. I'm being vulnerable, sharing information with people on social, putting yourself out there, putting out the content. That makes me vulnerable. And in the end, I mean, we're all just humans when we take everything away, job, title, home, we're all humans. And so there really is no judgment. I'm not any better than anybody else. And, back, like I said, in 2008, when the world fell apart, everybody runs through financial situations that they're like, oof, I wish that didn't happen. But it's part of life. And so as long as you help people navigate through that, that's really what my goal is it's okay. We're only human. Let's get on the right track now, and let's see what's.
It's so funny you just said that, because I have a longtime friend that just reached out to me. She's known my family for years, probably 30 plus years. And she just reached out. She knows I'm in insurance. And she's like, I've been meaning to reach out. She goes, but it's really embarrassing. And I was like, look, so I could tell, like, it already took a lot for her to reach out to me, especially because she's known me for so long. And just that comment alone, I knew she didn't want to be judged, which I would never judge. And she knows that, like, I'm not that type of person. But my response was, shit happens. It's all happened to us. So let me help you solve your problem. Like
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I lost my house in 2008. I've been there. I've done that. I tried to do everything the right way. I actually got like a nice little settlement because we tried to do it the right way. But I've been there. I've been through it all. And so I can't judge what you've been through any different than I have. I have somebody else that I know, the client of mine, lost their car for repossession just recently. And it's like, and she was, scared to reach out to me. And I'm like, cause we know each other. And so I'm like, life happens. Let's figure it out. Let's do it together. And I think that helps is, at the end of the day, we're human and we're people, and we all have to have that empathy and that just understanding for our clients to come to us.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we really are more than our finances. And unfortunately, in like a consumer driven society, a lot of people put their worth and their value on, my finances. But
I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, once you kind of have these things that happen in life that you're like, oh my gosh, I never expected this would have happened. It's hard to accept, but if you accept and move on and you don't create that same mistake again, that's all you can ask for. Learn from the lesson. It's like,
and I want to avoid it because I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. But then I know I always tell myself, when you actually deal with it and you look through, not that it's anything wrong, I just don't. Like, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to open my bank account and see that there's like $2. That's not the case, but like, that's my worst case scenario. And so I just put it off and I'm like, nope, don't want to deal with it. And then it's never as bad. Once you tackle it head on, it's never as bad as you made it out to be. So now you just put your whole body through this mental headache, and it's just a bad cycle.
I feel your pain. I do the same thing. Like our money story, it's interesting when we learn about what our money story is. I
Yep.
just did, the certification where we can actually help people learn their money story and get them ready. It's a program through like Freddie Mac, the organization that helps people buy homes. And it was really interesting in the segment when we learned about people's money story and how that really affects their whole outlook on life, and trying to change that story, or let's get to the truth and not the story we've made up. Life gets a little bit easier.
Yeah, it really, and I have to, that's really awesome. I need to make sure you are introduced to a really good friend of mine, and she's actually our CFO for our agency, but she teaches women about money and coaches them through the money. And one of the biggest things that I just absolutely love about her is it's the easiest way to relate it to is a dieting, right? Like go on, you want to lose weight. So you go on keto and you just are miserable your whole, the whole process. And then you end up binging and starting right back, because you're changing. It's just not a lifestyle. And I'm not saying keto is not a lifestyle, but if you're not, keto is not for everybody. And if you're miserable and not, can't handle that, then you are going to have a point in time where you do that. And so to shift it back to the financial side of it, she does the money. I'm totally going to butcher this. So, but she makes you take this test. So your money personality, essentially. And I am for sure, it's called Spendthrift Sally. I just want to buy what I want to buy, and all my response is I'll just make it up. I just have to sell one more thing and I can afford it. Or I can, make a little bit more and I'll just sell it, but I still want to enjoy life. And so what I've loved is she takes that personality of mine and she doesn't change me, but she still figures out how to now get to my goals, knowing this about my personality. And knowing that I'm not going to change, because it's who I am. And not to say we can't get better at it, but now we can see, and she helps me base my goals now on that. But I have that fine line of I still want to enjoy my life, and not if I want a damn $5 coffee, let me buy my $5 coffee.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I can't be mad if I can't get into my home because I just bought XYZ. So she helps me get to my financial goals, knowing who I am. So that's really cool that they have a program that you're learning, that you're getting, is it certified?
Yes. So it's already just finished the course, already got certified. So I'm really excited to start teaching that in 2024. With individuals, it's like, I think our relationship with money is the biggest hurdle we have to overcome to make all of our dreams come true.
Yep, for sure. And that's very cool because it's another tool that you have, for your clients to really help assess and figure out, okay, so we have all these programs. And again, why you should be calling, and going to a professional is, it's the same thing. I know that there are a lot of lenders out there, and you're probably one of them that, I come to you with this credit score and you pull my credit and you can say, well, if you pay off this, this, and this, or pay down this, this, and this, your credit score is now going to be here and I can get you 0.5% lower on your, your interest rate or whatever it may be. And so you're giving them the tools and the plan to now say, okay, perfect. Well, then rerun your credit and then we'll go ahead and find a home. And just to clarify to our listeners too, I think 2024 is going to be a big year. I'm super excited for this year and the things that I have planned and I've just been really manifesting and working hard towards, especially with the ups and mainly downs of 2023. But don't be afraid to go out and buy a home right now. And the mortgage is where you have to start first, right? Like you have to get with a lender first before you're going and viewing homes with realtors. Am I correct on that?
That's really true. Yes. Don't be afraid to buy a home because the price point of the homes, I mean, they vary so much. So when you're working, with the lender, they can tell you exactly, here's where your budget will allow. And, some lenders like to give, here's the highest price point. And people, when you give people a blank checkbook, they always go shop at the highest, of course. But
that's me.
I got you, Sally.
Yep.
So, I like to give folks, here's your low, your medium, and your high. Where do you feel comfortable? Giving people options, I think, educated options is really important. So not to be afraid to go out there, and when you have an mortgage underwritten pre-approval, meaning underwriting is already taking a look at all your finances. 3/4 of the work has been done ahead of time. So once you do find that home, we can close it a lot quicker because we've already taken a look at that deep dive of the finances.
Yep.
2024 really is going to be a great time to go out there and purchase something, because with real estate, as we all know, it's always going to appreciate.
Yep, 100%.
And real estate is a long game. Like, just because, you bought today, you don't have to worry if your price goes down, $1,000 in 2 months. Are you going to sell in 2 months? It really doesn't matter.
No.
It's a cycle.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always a catch-22. So again, comes back to strategy. But the minute that interest rates drop even more, what's going to happen to house prices? They're going to go
back up.
Right? So now you're in, like, the home that we're in right now, we bought in 2018. So it was before the 3% craze. I think our interest rate, if I'm not mistaken, was like low fives. I think I was in like the low fives when we bought in 2018. But we beat out like 26 offers. Like, it was nuts. I'm like, shout out to my realtor. That was some amazing work right there. But like, I don't want to buy a home in that. I don't want to do that again. So I'd rather control my destiny now and just find the right home, have the right mortgage, knowing, in another year and a half, if it gets to 5, I can just refinance. But I have the house that I want, or I'm in the area that I want, and I got my foot in the door that way. That was kind of my mindset for 2024 is to do it that way. Because it's always a catch-22. You either have really low interest rates, but you're overpaying for the home because of, bidding wars, or you're paying a little bit more for the interest rate, which you can change at a point in time, but you're not, you're getting the home at a little bit less, and then just hang on for a year or two until the rates, do drop, as long as you can afford it to begin with. And that's what you guys are just so, gosh, I just can't express enough how important it is to have a professional and not to just be vulnerable, go to a professional, put together a plan, tell them your deep, dark secrets and your hopes and your dreams, all of it. So, I feel like sometimes we're therapists too. We should have like that as a second degree.
That is my Google degree. I am a Google therapist.
I love that. You're like, yes, I am. The amount of like divorces I've unfortunately had to handle as an insurance agent, or my kid and his I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But we're here. But you know what? I actually take that as a compliment that they feel that they can trust me with, those stories in their life, on that end. So I actually am not
100%. Yeah. Having trust, that's something that is priceless. So having that trust and having somebody to actually go to and, respect and trust and be like, okay, tell me, what do I need to do? Not a lot of people have that access to somebody that can do that for them. So when you do find somebody, I mean, really, it's that relationship, and because you need people to help you get ahead. And so, from your perspective, people need you to protect themselves and everything they've worked hard for.
To protect that asset that they just purchased, the home. That's probably one of their biggest assets.
There you go.
We are not short of litigators in this city.
Exactly. We're not afraid of the numbers. We're not afraid to go, head on to face that problem. And it's good to have folks that are willing to do that, because a lot of people just, pull back and be like, oh, I'll just wait. Like avoidance creates more problems.
Yep. 100%. You can say that. Avoidance. Let's say that out loud again. Avoidance
can create a lot of problems.
Avoidance can create a lot of problems. So maybe if I say that enough, it'll sink in. Probably not, but
get a t-shirt.
It's my issue. That's a good idea. Let's do a t-shirt line. I love that. And like I said earlier, it always ends up not being nearly as bad as I made it out to be, but I just didn't want to deal with it. So I'm just going to put it off.
Exactly. That's something I'm teaching my kids right now. It's like, just go get it head on.
Just do it.
Just get it over with. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Yep. Because then also the time that you're stewing on it, you're just wasting all that time. And there are times, it's not that I'm necessarily, I don't know who likes confrontation, in all honesty, but it's not that I don't like it, and I'm not afraid of it. It's just not comfortable. Didn't we just talk about that? Full circle here. Uncomfortableness.
That is life. That is life.
Welcome to life. 100% for sure. Well, for all of our viewers, what is the best way to get in touch with you? We'll have and tag, but feel free to say it right here, but we'll make sure to tag all of your social media input. But how can they get in touch with you if they want to just, start getting financially naked with you? That should be your slogan.
Perfect. So they can definitely reach out to me on my cell phone, 702-591-4575. Or my email is really simple. It's jackie@genevafi.com. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, where I love to share information and educate both agents and, consumers. And my handle is Jackie Z Home Loans.
Love it. Love it. And you're a ski. I'm married into a ski. So Polish roots. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for just getting out of your comfort zone. And this is a great start to 2024 and this imaginary word, or maybe it really is a word, uncomfortableness that we started, because I think, it's just a pattern and you have to start somewhere. And I think we're super excited for growth, and I can't wait to continue to, support you and just, follow along and be in the same community of, helping people. We have a lot of people moving to Vegas. So I hope the leads and just everything that you've been working so hard and hustling for, and putting yourself out there for those risks. I think I hope that the reward just continues to pay out for you. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. And I appreciate you for inviting me, and kudos to you for, doing your long goal here of, let's get this podcast, and you took that leap of faith, and you've got a great face and voice for radio. So,
oh, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I could use a really good filter today, but so I was so happy. Yeah, right. Technology is great for that. Everything has filters nowadays, but I was so happy it was great meeting you here, and I look forward to following along your journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Ashley Mastowski. Tune in next time for more inspiration and stories from women who've made an impact. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Special shout out to Little Dog Social Media for making all of this come together.